Hi, and welcome back to Mary Trump Live. The hour of power is among us. Hi, I'm Brian Karam, sitting in for Mary today, and thanks for joining us. Also, I want to thank you all for having me. It's always a joy to be here with you guys. Well, the East Wing is gone. That's right. Trump says he can kill whoever he wants without declaring war, while he declares war on American cities, continues his revenge tour on his political opponents, flips the bird to Canada, disses Ronald Reagan, and spends another day taking an inelegant political dump on the Constitution. That's right. Welcome to Despotism Dawn. If the destruction of the East Wing proves anything, it's that no one is standing in Puff Donnie's way these days until hopefully after the midterm election. But that's next year. So right now, we're back into the soup. Let's dive in. I'm ready to dive. You ready to dive in? Diving in, Lexi? Yes, no, maybe so. Anyway, you want to? We could start without the, without the intro. We'll start with someone who's actually standing up to the Trump regime. The New York Times reports that today, Attorney General Letitia James pleaded not guilty to the federal charges against her. She's been accused of making false statements and bank fraud. The case against her is widely seen as, at best, circumstantial and actually just part of Donald's campaign to punish political adversaries. James was indicted by Lindsay Halligan, an inexperienced U.S. attorney in Virginia, who was, of course, handpicked by Donald Trump. Hint, figure it out. She's a former real estate attorney. Meanwhile, James' defense argues the case is baseless, politically motivated, and unsupported by evidence. Basically, she's being accused of claiming a Virginia home she bought for her great niece would be her own primary residence. The defense pointed out that James' great niece was living there rent-free, contradicting their claim that she is using it as a rental investment. After entering her plea, James spoke outside the court. So let's take a look at those remarks.
Thank you. But this is not about me. This is about all of us. And about a justice system which has been weaponized. A justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge. This justice system which has been used as a tool of revenge and a weapon against those individuals who simply did their job and who stood up for the rule of law. And a justice system which unfortunately is nothing being used as a vehicle of retribution. But my faith is strong. And my faith is, I have this belief in the justice system, in the rule of law, and I have a belief in America and all of its individuals who have stood with me, not only in New York, but all across this nation. So there's no fear today. No fear. No fear. No fear. No fear. Because I believe that justice will rain down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream.
Well, maybe she practiced that, but I got to tell you, it's not wrong. If you want to take a look at Donald Trump, and if you question if this is revenge motivated, I'll tell you this. 1, prosecution, 2, maybe 3. Look, he's on a tear, folks. He's not going to finish until every single person that has opposed him in the past is, he's got his revenge on them. And it doesn't really matter. The thing you have to keep in mind, it doesn't matter whether he wins in court. It's the idea of putting these people into the system that Donald Trump wants, because it costs money, time, and takes away from leading a life. You've got to defend yourself. So Donald Trump, I can't even go there. This week, CNN reported that the U.S. military carried out another fatal strike against a boat that we were told was a suspected transporter of drugs. However, this vessel was traveling in the Pacific as opposed to the Caribbean, which is where previous strikes of this kind had taken place. And this marks the 8th operation of this kind by the Trump regime in recent months. In their report, CNN adds that, quote, the Trump administration has produced a classified legal opinion seeking to justify lethal strikes against a secret and expansive list of cartels and suspected drug traffickers. The opinion is significant, legal experts previously told CNN, because it treats drug traffickers as enemy combatants who can be summarily executed, killed, without any kind of judicial review. Where do we go with this? First of all, you don't end the problems of drugs in the United States by killing the producers of the drugs. There's a demand in the United States. If you reduce the demand, doesn't matter if they're selling drugs, they simply wouldn't be able to sell them. All you do by killing those, if they actually are drug dealers, all you're doing is raising the price of the drugs, making it harder to get, and guaranteeing that there will not only be a problem in getting the drugs, but also violence will ensue as massive profits are gained through drug use. We've seen it before. Ronald Reagan tried it in the 80s with a war on drugs, and he failed. But more importantly, I want to quote, this is War is a Racket, Brigadier General Smedley D. Butler, who wrote a book about the United States going to war in Latin America 100 years ago. And he said, think it over, my dear fellow Americans. Can't we be satisfied with defending our own homes, our own women, our own children, right here in America? There are only 2 reasons why you should ever be asked to give up your youngsters' lives. One is defense of our homes. The other is the defense of the Bill of Rights. Every other reason advanced for the murder of young men is a racket, pure and simple. And that hasn't changed. That's 100 years ago. We created a lot of the problems in Latin America, and we're only compounding them today. And finally, you cannot go after and kill people without due process. Even if you're an illegal immigrant in this country, our country guarantees due process. And that's the one thing that Donald Trump doesn't want. Meanwhile, today, a reporter asked Donald if he plans to officially declare war on the drug cartels he's been attacking. And he had this wonderful quote. He had to say this. Listen.
And briefed them on the operations.
No, we will
these.
go. I said.
You will go, and
we
it would
will
be
go.
difficult for them to object.
I don't see any loss in going. No reason not to. You know, they'll always complain, oh, we should have gone. So we're going to definitely, I'd like to just tell you, let's go. We'll go.
And Mr.
We're going to tell them what we're going to do, and I think they're going to probably like it, except for the radical left lunatics.
And Mr. President, if you are declaring war against these cartels and Congress is likely to approve of that process, why not just ask for a declaration of war?
Well, I don't think we're going to necessarily ask for a declaration of war. I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay? We're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead. Okay?
Is he a mob boss? I mean, that's the least presidential thing he said today. Honest to God, that's not how the head of state acts or reacts. And to just say, kill them, execute them like dead. I'm waiting for Paulie Walnuts to stand on the side going, we're going to get him. Is a pimp. I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, this week, Donald shocked the nation by instructing a wrecking crew to begin demolishing the east wing of the White House. This came after he promised not to disturb any existing structures on the White House campus. And with the construction of his new ballroom, he did do it. He said no building would be compromised, and the new ballroom wouldn't even touch the existing east wing. Well, as of this morning, the demolition is done. Here's ABC News with the latest updates.
This morning, the historic 120-year-old East Wing of the White House reduced to rubble. Satellite images show the dramatic transformation from less than 1 month ago to now. Along with the building, at least 6 trees have been taken down, including 2 magnolias commemorated to Presidents Warren Harding and Franklin Roosevelt, all to make room for President Trump's 90,000-square-foot ballroom. This rendering shows how the ballroom will look when completed, much larger than the White House residence.
90,000 square feet, folks, is about twice the size of the existing White House structure. This is a monument to Donald's ego. It hasn't been approved. Look, the White House has been many times renovated, things added to. I had someone compare this destruction of the East Wing to Barack Obama building a basketball court on the White House, and I damn near had to die. But here's the thing. Not approved, not known, no blueprint, private donors who will owe Donnie a favor. Donnie will owe them a favor because of this. This is not the way it's supposed to be done. And I have to tell you, I've been coming and going at the White House for 40 years. And when I saw that the East Wing was gone, I was in tears. And I'm not lying. To me, it was just, it is seeing that photograph of the White House being destroyed by Donald Trump is symbolic of everything about this administration. They will tear down everything. And all of it is because he doesn't want to talk about Jeff Epstein. That's the God's honest truth, folks. Everything that he's doing is to keep us from talking about that issue while he proves that he is a king. And I got news for you. Donald Trump has seen no effective pushback since he's been in office. He is a despot, and he will be a despot until hopefully November of next year. But we have another year to go through this, and think how far we've sunk in just 1 year. If we don't get our democracy back in the midterms, we may never get it back. It's that simple. Meanwhile, Donald the Despot last night took his failed social media site to task with an announcement about trade negotiations. The subject, his arch nemesis, Canada. You can't make this up. Blame Canada. His unhinged post said, in part, excuse me, the Ronald Reagan Foundation has just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs based on their egregious behavior. All trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. Excuse me. Chokes me up. So what is this advertisement? Excuse me. Hopefully I don't die in the middle of this. So what is this advertisement that Donald has talked about, our closest ally? Take a look.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Well, it ends up that ad was paid for by the government of Ontario. The spot criticized Donald's tariff policy and uses Reagan to make the point. But Reagan did this 40 years ago, and I got to tell you, I've never been a Ronald Reagan fan. But this, you see, it breaks me up now thinking about that and the White House being destroyed. It's not that I choked on anything, it's that it choked me up. It's hard to get through it, and I apologize. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke to reporters about the status of trade negotiations with the Trump regime today, and here's what he had to say.
For months, we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners to different degrees. And it's in that context that our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries. Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home. And that's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus of this trip.
Imagine, folks, our closest allies no longer want to have anything to do with us. You just heard that man say that he's going to build relationships with Asia. Because why? Because Donald Trump, Donald, I call him Donald Doofus, but Donald Trump has destroyed our closest relationships with our closest allies, putting all of us in peril, our economy, our farmers. Meanwhile, he's got private donors who are donating money so he can pay the military, hoping to buy the military off. Anyway, The Independent reports that Donald's claimed that the ad used Ronald Reagan's words fraudulently is wrong. The quotes in the ad are genuine and were pulled from a 1987 address by the then president. Folks, I was there and covered that address. The ad simply uses selected excerpts from the speech rather than the full address, and that's a good thing because that lasted about 15 minutes, I believe. So what can I tell you? Donald Trump is putting the country in peril. I can't say it enough. And if you want to look at anything, please just go look at the East Wing. Look at the hole that used to be there. It's not the America I grew up with. With that said, we have our merch store up and running for pre-sale on Sunday. Check out some of our new designs. We'll be dropping the link in the chat on Monday. Also, reminders for you. Ask Mary Anything will be on Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And with that, we've reached today's emotional support moment, and maybe I need it more than the rest of you. It's the end of another long week. Now it's time to put on your favorite shirt, jacket, get outside, jump in a bale of leaves, I don't know, bob for apples, and carve a few pumpkins. Don't do it like, Snoopy did it. But anyway, to help us, and watch for the great pumpkin. He could be coming to your neighborhood. If you have a very humble pumpkin patch, I'm sure he'll show up. Anyway, to help us celebrate the season, let's kick off the weekend with, among other things, some pink flamingos on a beach doing their thing. Have a great weekend. Honestly, it reminds me of the Republicans walking into Congress, looking both ways and standing together in a small group. Well, that said, let's head to your questions. I want to, let's see, we got Argy with a new member, became a YouTube member. Thank you. Midas Cheryl gifted 1 Mary Trump Media membership. Midas Cheryl, you are really good. Every time I'm here, you're gifting those things. Kathy Feehan became a YouTube member. Congratulations, Kathy. And then we've got, oh, yes, Donald Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care what you think or say. He just doesn't care. Alan, you're absolutely right. He doesn't really care about anything except one thing. You know what it is? Donald Trump. That's all Donnie cares about, all he's ever cared about. Eileen, I think we have Eileen here. He wants to be a wartime president, so he's going out to start one. what he wants to, no, well, that's kind of true, Eileen. He does want to, he wants to flex his muscles, but he also wants the Nobel Peace Prize. So he wants to start a war and finish it, kind of like, the arsonist starts a fire and then puts it out. That's kind of his goal. He just wants to start a fire and put it out, and he'll be fine. I don't think he'll ever get the Nobel Peace Prize, though. Anyway, 6-6, he will give Alaskan Donbas to Putin, yet keep oil, gas, and rare earth minerals rights for his pocket. You're not the first one to say that. And when Donald Trump met Putin in Alaska, remember what Putin has said before: anywhere you speak Russian, he thinks that's part of Russia. And when he showed up in Alaska, which Russia sold to the U.S., he went to the graves of those Russians who had died in World War II on Alaska soil, I believe is what it was. So yes, I do believe that Putin has designs on getting Alaska. He certainly has designs on the Donbas region, and Donald Trump is too dumb to figure it out. I can't pronounce this. Nidal, Ohio. Swear jar fee. This is fucking ridiculous. I'm so angry about so much that it's overwhelming at times. I became overwhelmed just thinking about the East Wing. And I'm sorry, I became emotional, guys, but it's kind of tough when you've gone to someplace for 40 years. And, I've gone to parties. I've been in the East Wing. I remember the first time I showed up, and there was a time, for a party, and it was in the, I think it was the George Herbert Walker Bush administration. And then the last Christmas party of the Clinton era, I was there. And I remember thinking what a really beautiful area the East Wing was. And there are no memories. I can't, there's nothing left. And what scares me most, Night Owl, is when they tore down that East Wing. Look, I was there when Donald Trump left left Washington after he lost the election to Joe Biden. And for the last 3 days of that administration, everyone in that administration looted the White House. I saw them taking out paintings. I saw them taking out photographs, busts and marble statues. They just looted the White House. So God only knows what they took out of the East Wing. We'll never find out. They'll be sitting in someone's bathroom or kitchen, or more likely in Mar-a-Lago. Moving on. Midas Cheryl again. Good to have you here, Brian. I feel great. I'm sorry. It was just, I got to tell you, honestly, there are a lot of reporters like me who saw what happened in the East Wing and saw its destruction. And it's just hard to take. And I hope enough people wake up finally to understanding that we're not facing the threat of fascism. We're not facing the threat of the destruction of our Constitution. We're full-throated in the middle of it. And what upsets me is when people don't get that or defend it. He's doing great. Private donors, where was your anger when, Roosevelt rebuilt the White House? I wasn't around, but it was voted on by Congress, and it was a renovation because the thing was falling apart. So rather than tearing it down, they rebuilt it from the inside up and kept the facade there. Donald Trump just decided to knock things down so he could build a monument to his own ego. And I swear to you, I do not believe if he's alive, that he will leave the White House in 2028. I think he's going to try to find a way to run for office. His goal is to build that wonderful ballroom and Lion State in it. He never wants to leave the White House again. If I were pursuing a law degree, what should my focus be if I was to work for progressives? Well, I think civics, First Amendment law, civil rights, all of those are places where there needs to be his divine schedule. There needs to be a good attorneys and good representations. Press freedom, First Amendment rights, civil rights. Those are the progressive, those issues that are near and dear to progressives should be the place where you focus your energy if you want to be an attorney. God knows we need more of them. Susan Thompson, thank you, Brian. You're expressing what so many of us are feeling. We love you. Well, thank you, Susan. I love you too. Thank you very much. And again, I apologize for getting a little verklempt. It was tough. Reagan was a tool of the banks. Donald is just a tool. Well, Ronald Reagan created the mess that we have today. Remember when he ran, and like I said, that was the first time I went to the White House was during his administration, and he was a tool of the banks and the oligarchs, but he empowered the Christian right, which has risen since, because it was part of the Nixon Southern strategy that Ronald Reagan relied on to get into office in 1980. And if you'll remember, in 1984, while they were proclaiming it was a landslide victory for Ronald Reagan, his coattails were extremely short. You know what Ronald Reagan's real legacy to the United States is? Nothing that he did. It's Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell was the one senator that rode his coattails to victory in 1984 in the state of Kentucky. And what hell hath he wrought since then? Thank you, Ronnie. Rasta Ronnie. In the middle of nowhere 13. That's how I feel sometimes, brother. Couldn't agree more, Brian. It's all about Epstein. Midas touched it, a great deep dive fact checking, and the Canadian ad. It's all factual and accurate, and they're PR Ronald Reagan's own words. I know I covered it. I'm God bless it. I'm old enough that I actually covered that. Wasn't a fan then, but this is far worse. Yes, I've never been a fan of Ronald Reagan. I believe what he did to the First Amendment. It started with Ronald Reagan dismantling the guardrails for journalism that has led to where we are now, with corporate ownership at an all-time high and independent journalism at an all-time low. Donald Trump is merely a symptom of the cancer that began with Ronald Reagan. I'll never talk me out of believing that. And you're right, it is far worse now. Thank you, Brian, team, and moderators. Well, thank you, introverted Caroline. It's very good to see you. Question, can the military stop Depot Donald? I know that there are many people inside the Pentagon who are unhappy with Donald Trump. I don't know where that leads, but I know Hegseth is loath to keep anyone under him who has any sign of standing against Donald. So they walk a tightrope. Do they come out against Donald and get fired and then have someone in their place who will do whatever Donald wants, or do they try to hold down the carnage? I believe that most of the members of our military, and I believe most of the generals and most of the people I've covered in the Pentagon, all have taken an oath of office. Their oath has been to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump. And a lot of them take that very seriously. Most of them, in fact, an overwhelming number of them take that very seriously. Unlike the politicians in this country who have taken an oath to the Constitution and are merely being feral and fetal to Donald Trump. I can't even, I'm so sad and enraged by this creature and his followers. Well, I agree, but he didn't get there. He was born in the United States, went to schools in the United States, was raised in the culture of the United States. Donald Trump is a product of the United States, which tells me we need to do better. As Pogo said, we have met the enemy and he is us. For those who have stood against Donald Trump and against fascism, you're going to have to stand harder. You're going to have to become more involved. You not only have to vote, but you have to go out and make sure that you get people to the voting polls. You have to make sure that you get registered. You have to volunteer on phone banks. You have to volunteer to be, working at the precincts. Donald Trump said today, as a matter of fact, that in the 2026 election, he will have members of ICE and the National Guard at certain blue cities in the United States. And why is that? Voter suppression. Because he wants to frighten people into not voting. Don't be scared. Vote. I just love this channel. Mary and her friends who sub for. Well, thank you, Midas Cheryl. We love you too. I mean, you're very active. I gotta tell you, it's just a pleasure to see all of you here. It always is a pleasure to be here. I enjoy it very much. Thanks, Brian. Well, thank you, current user, and thank you for the $1.99, current user. I hope that's not your real name. Can't imagine trick-or-treating at Mar-a-Lago. Well, trick-or-treating at Mar-a-Lago, God knows what you're going to get in your bag. Charlie Brown got a rock. It's at Mar-a-Lago. You'd be lucky. Donald Trump would want to charge you. Here's a rock. Give me $1. In fact, Mar-a-Lago may be the only place you'd ever go for trick-or-treating where you'd have to pay to go. Thank you, Misunderstood 103. Whiskey Winch, Steve Bannon just said in an interview that Donald will be POTUS in 2028 so they can finish what we started. We need to pay attention to elections. Yes, and we need to pay attention when Donald Trump says stuff like that, when Steve Bannon says stuff like that, take them at their word. There are people who are going, oh, how many times have I heard this over the years? And I mean, during the first Trump administration, oh, Brian, he's just being out there. No, when he tells you he's going to violate the law, he is. And Steve Bannon, as loathsome as he is, and trust me, if there's anyone who ever needed a deodorant soap, it's Steve Bannon. But that man is not lying. He wants Donald Trump to be there in 2028. If he's alive, he'll run. He's Exila Joey, $5. Thank you. Thank you very much. He's adding to the under that wing preparing for civil war. I don't know that there will be a civil war. I do know we have unrest in this country every day. We have multiple shootings several times a week, it seems like, all over the country, mass shootings. So I don't know that violence is what they're going to do. And I don't believe they'll get rid of elections. Those who say, oh, we'll be lucky if we have election. No, we'll have an election in 2026. They're just going to try and rig it. And they're going to try and rig it so that the super minority in the MAGA party rule over the majority of the United States with cruelty, hatred, and insecurity. And they want to make you fearful. The goal is to make you afraid. Don't be afraid. Reagan's trickle down made the oligarchs of today. You are absolutely correct, Maria Betancourt, 6797. Ronald Reagan's, or as, who was it? I think it was George Herbert Walker Bush who first called it Ronald Reagan's tinkle down theory, which was also used by Archie Bunker. But the trickle down theory is, in essence, garbage because it assumes that the richest will give to the poorest. And if they did that, well, there would be no need for taxes. But the fact of the matter is the oligarchs today owe a great deal of gratitude to Ronald Reagan for making this world that we live in, this dystopia, possible. Trader Trump will not leave the White House. There will be no election. Trump will see to that. There will be election, much like the one in Russia. You know, I met a Russian comic who said, I don't know why y'all get so upset about elections in the United States. We already know who's going to win when we go in to vote. And that's what Donald Trump wants. He wants the appearance of democracy. The reality is fascism or despotism or a king, just as long as he's in power. A dictator. He's a dictator. Thank you, Brian, Mary, Lexi, and the entire MTM team. Susan Thompson, 5142 with $20. Thank you. It's been a hell of a week. Grateful for this awesome community. It's not only been a hell of a week, but folks, we're just basically not even a year into this. Can you recognize the United States? Because I sure don't. I never thought, I'm not going to get emotional again, so forgive me. It's not like it, but I never imagined that before the end of the year, they tear down part of the White House. So yes, Brian Karam. Oh yeah, that's me. Host of Just Ask the Question, wherever fine questions are asked. And that, by the way, I named my particular, oh look, my cat's waking up over there. I named my particular podcast over something that Helen Thomas once told me, and I wish reporters would do it today. She said, Brian, it doesn't matter what the question is, just ask the question. That way they cannot deny that it's been put on the record. And I wish more people had the balls about them to ask questions today, for what it's worth. So with that, I guess we're finished with all of it. I want to thank you all again for joining us on Mary Trump Live. You can catch me on Substack at Reporter's Notebook. And of course, the book is called Free the Press, wherever fine books are sold. And Just Ask the Question is the podcast. And my column today in Salon is about how damn stupid and how screwed up the White House press office is, and how unprofessional the wonderful PEP secretary is at the White House. I've never seen anything worse. So have a read and a laugh. There will be a laugh there. I try to give you a little laugh every once in a while. So with that said, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I'm Brian Karam, and we'll catch you next time.